The battle between Chick-fil-A and the San Antonio City Council is the warning shot that by staying silent, we are conceding each of the smaller battles in the larger war of ideas. To the sensible among you, I say, dangerous ideas and the authoritarians that thrive off of them are sneaking in under the cover of the social justice movement. And it's high time that reasonable people grow a pair and fight back. Let's debate it on the other side. My name is Raleigh Castillo, and this is Podcast of Pensador. Hey, what is up, everybody? Thanks for showing up. The revolution continues, one podcast at a time. My name is Raleigh Castillo, and before we get started, don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us. This is the easiest way to help us grow, guys. Sharing our content on Facebook and subscribing to our podcast on all the different platforms, including iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify. And if you want to become a Patreon, which we would love, just head on over to patreon.com, that's patreon.com/Hell's Tavern, and for the price of a beer, you can sponsor the show to help us grow, so we can keep putting out content and giving sight to the blind. Okay, so let's get started. As you all know, Chick-fil-A has been in a lot of hot water lately, and it's not because they are discriminatory towards anybody in particular, or it's not because their business practices are corrupt. It's not because they screw people out of their money. It's not because they have a Ponzi scheme going on. It's not because they're shady. No, it's because their owners donate to Christian organizations such as the Salvation Army and future Christian athletes. And these organizations are pro-traditional marriage. And as you know, in 2019, social justice tells us that if you are pro-traditional marriage, you are a bigot and you hate gay people. Don't you know this? That's the way it is. So, in the midst of all of this, Texas has largely been immune to the San Francisco, California type social justice craziness. But little by little, are we hearing stories in Texas starting to pop up like this one. Just last week, the San Antonio City Council voted to cut Chick-fil-A's contract, or airport contract, closing their business down at the airport. And so I want to read you the story by San Antonio Express News by Gilbert Garcia. It's a really good article, and I will start reading it now. So, if you believe, as I do, that any form of bigotry against members of the LGBT community is abhorrent and indefensible, the easiest path would be to applaud the City Council's decision to remove Chick-fil-A from an airport concessions contract. But the right answer is not always the easy one. The Chick-fil-A debacle, which ended last Thursday when a narrow 6-5 council majority rejected Councilman mayoral candidate Greg Brockhouse's motion to revisit the issue, was, among other things, a failure of process. Even council members such as Ana Sandoval, who agreed with the decision to boot the fast food franchise from the contract, acknowledged that the March 21st decision had been rushed, without adequate consideration or public input. Process, however, was only part of the problem. The council also failed to think through the broader implications of its actions. District 1 Councilman Roberto Trevino initiated the move to drop Chick-fil-A, citing the Georgia company's history of donating to faith-based organizations that oppose same-sex marriage. Oh, the travesty. That issue flared up the day before March 21st contract vote, with a Think Progress piece reporting the Chick-fil-A Foundation donated $1.8 million to 3 such organizations: the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, the Salvation Army, and the Paul Anderson Youth Home. Quote, "We do not have room in our public facilities," Trevino said, "for a business with the legacy of anti-LGBT LGBTQ behavior. Above all else, businesses should be judged by how they treat their employees. Check. Their customers, check. And the communities they serve, check. Chick-fil-A has no documented history of discriminating against LGBTQ individuals in their hiring or serving practices. I'm going to end the article right there. If you want to check out the full article, it's San Antonio Express News, and it's written by Gilbert Garcia, titled Chick-fil-A, a vote creates precedent the council may come to regret. Now, here is the rundown. It is my feeling that now more than ever do we have to be extra vigilant and hostile towards bad ideas. Shutting down a business because the owners have different political opinions than yourself is not only immoral, it's fascism. It's fascism whether the people implementing the policy are brown shirts in Germany or whether they are dressed representing rainbow colors in a San Antonio city council. And shutting down a business because the owners are religious and support traditional marriage, I mean, imagine that, right? It's not only offensive to more than half of traditional Americans, but it also fast-tracks us towards the possibility of a real civil war again. I mean, the fact is, if we want to stop bad trends from trending worse, then we got to speak up. There's been a pattern of abhorrent ideas and gross concepts being snuck in the back door under the cover of, insert whatever beleaguered historically oppressed group. Well, I choose not to speak up because I've seen what they do to people who speak up. They get labeled bigots. Okay, so if that's your main concern, getting labeled a bigot, then start getting used to waking up and reading articles like this from The Federalist. The Houston Public Library has apologized for featuring a convicted child molester last fall during its, quote, Drag Queen Storytime series. It has not, however, announced that it will end the program that featured the male sex offender dressed up as a woman reading LGBT books to children as young as babies. A media spokesperson for the library confirmed one of the program's drag queens, Tatiana Malanina, is Alberto Garza, a 32-year-old child sex offender, reports local TV station KHOU. In 2008, he was convicted of assaulting an 8-year-old boy. State records say the 200-pound, 5'11" man was convicted of aggravated sexual assault of a child. And he is at moderate risk for reoffending and must report his whereabouts to the police annually for the rest of his life. Drag Queen Storytime is spreading to libraries across the country, mostly, but not exclusively, to deeply democratic locales. So perhaps, until it's your child sitting in a library with a convicted child molester dude in a dress, will you start feeling just a twinge of uncomfortability? And maybe then, will you find the courage to organize with other parents in your community and put an end to these bad ideas? Drag Queen Storytime is an objectively abhorrent idea. That's without the child molester, and I'll tell you why. It is a danger to children in many ways. It's psychologically dangerous. Gender confusion and gender dysphoria leads many in the transgender community to suicide, and you're giving it out to kids like it's a freaking lollipop, all in the name of progress? Go screw yourselves. And it gets the stamp of approval because it's being packaged with the LGBT label. Oh, he's reading LGBT books. Yeah, but he's also a child molester. Shut up, you bigot. He supports LGBT rights. Oh, you're so good. You're such a good person, right? What are we talking about here? And how does this connect full circle with Chick-fil-A? What I'm talking about is destructive ideas and concepts being snuck in the back door through movements. In this case, the LGBT community. Using your position in the city council and the power of the city to shut down a business because the owner donates to a pro-traditional marriage religious organizations? This is not only a bad idea, this is corruption. It's un-American, and it's bad precedent. Because at best, Texas is divided on the issue of gay marriage, right down the middle, and that just depends on how the question is framed. And Texans are divided even as to whether a business owned by a religious person should be obliged to service in violation of their religious beliefs. That's how divided Texas is on this issue, right down the middle. And the San Antonio City Council, weak as San Antonio City Council, and they deserve all the backlash they are getting because they have opened up a can of worms. Because by calling Chick-fil-A bigots, they are by proxy referring to half of the state with similar views as Chick-fil-A as bigots. And if that's the case, then why the hell should we go to your city and give you our money if you're going to attack half of the state? I mean, the city of San Antonio needs a reckoning. Stand by your delusional social justice routine of shutting down the opposing side, but be ready to deal with the consequences, San Antonio. And finally, an individual's right to be homosexual does not trump your right to practice your religion privately and donate to whatever pro-religious cause you choose to. I mean, this would be a different conversation if there was even an inkling of evidence that Chick-fil-A professional business practices discriminated against the LGBT community. But there isn't. They are as clean a business as a business can be. So what's their only crime? Being Christians in 2019, making a damn good sandwich, and smiling so much that it hurts. Traditional Texans, how long will you be pushed around by a loud, obnoxious minority? How long will you allow yourselves to be slandered and labeled all in the name of social justice? It's time to fight back. I tell you this as someone who isn't even religious, so the emotions I have invested in this stem only from my love of freedom and the belief that people should be free to believe and speak as they wish without having the state pull out a gun and tell you believe as we do or else. And if sensible people can't agree on this, then maybe it is too late. And what comes next should terrify everybody.